So number 1 Sentai Gozyuger just premiered, and there's a whole lot to talk about just from this one episode. The series premiere left me and many others with more questions than answers. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off, I love HORU so far. He definitely feels much different to the last couple of Reds. In the first scene, he seems like a normal guy working at a conveni, but turns out this dude doesn't take shit from anyone by challenging the robber and winning. Yet we also see a sweet side when he approaches the cafe owner's child and brightens up his day while also taking hits from the Yakuza to protect the two. As for the actual plot for him, he's very different from the past couple of Reds since this guy doesn't have a dream due to his past with his mother. A past where his mother told him to smother his heart. And coming from a Sentai season where the entire plot of the show is to take control of the wheel of your life and head towards your dream, it's very interesting to see a character who has no dream because his life was derailed at a young age. Hell, even a character like Momoi who was good at everything had a goal at the end of the day. And one thing that was interesting about that flashback was the cityscape. The cityscape looks very similar to the number 1 world cityscape. Plus, upon entering the number 1 world, HORU had some sort of vision when he appeared there. So my prediction is that HORU is actually from the number 1 world and somehow transported to the other world. But as for HORU's catchphrase, I think it's wild. Starting today, you're my prey. That is just an absolute cold catchphrase. And if he's saying that in every single fight, he's gonna piss off all of the enemies even more. As for HORU's fighting style, it very much mimics a wolf's brutal nature, with him being very up close and personal, and almost being very agile and speedy as well. Also, it seems like him and the rest of the team made some sort of contract with the Tegasword to gain their power, which I 100% feel will have something to do with the endgame. But from the looks of things, I believe that his end series goal is going to be to find something to be number 1 in. But as of right now, the dude just wants to pay back his $250 yen burger. Which, by the way, is like super cheap, like roughly $1 or so. As for the rest of the team, we really didn't get to see too much of them. But from what we can see towards the end and the HENSHIN lesson, it looks like Goju Leon and Goju Tyranno are in some sort of alliance at this point. I imagine that this will be some sort of alliance made due to the color of their Tegaswords. But I wonder how the 6 will join since he's gonna have a completely different changer. As for Sumino, she says that she wants to get someone back. So we might just have another LupinRanger situation where she ended up losing someone on duty. We know she had a bad past with her academy due to an incident, but we don't know the full extent of the incident. As for Kijiro, he says his dream begins now. I'm gonna assume that he means that his life as a party guy begins today since that was his dream. Either way, I'm interested in what exactly he means by that. Anyways, it seems like all the Gozyugers are already connected via the howl that GozyuWolf did when he henshined. When howling, all the rings started to vibrate, so this could possibly be some sort of animal instinct that all the rings have, or they are connected via the Tegasword, since all 5 of them were given power through the Tegasword. Anyways, I wonder how the other 4 will fight, given that HORU fights very brutally. In the transformation lesson, we can see that Rikuo's henshin is a bit different compared to HORU's, along with his fight against the grunts as BoonRed being very tactical and thought through. So I wonder if their fighting style is based off the animal that they change into. Also, the transformation lesson shows that the color rings that become their robos are also able to transform into their weapons. And on the topic of weapons, I found it interesting that the other Sentai Reds, as far as I can tell, cannot use the weapons of the said Sentai, while the Gozyugers can use their weapons. This could be the difference between a gold and a silver Tegasword, as the gold might have some sort of gifted ability. But on the topic of the other Reds, we have to talk about the biggest thing to come out of this premiere, being Taya's actor coming back to play Kuwagata or Susumi. This without a doubt is the most interesting thing to come out of this premiere. Now I'm gonna be honest, I love this idea. Allowing previous Sentai alumni to return as a brand new character and don a new suit is really cool, and it allows for it to not hurt the continuity of the existing shows while still paying tribute to them. This was one of my many complaints with Decade, but for here it works since it isn't affecting the story of the others and we don't get weird situations like Hibiki and Kiva. But back to Taya coming back, when I was watching it live, I was wondering the whole entire time if I had seen his actor before, but lo and behold, it was Haruhi. And it's insane to me that the Clark Kent thing worked on many people alongside me in the community. But what's even more insane is that this dude was the first one in the production to transform. And he knew that people respected Kuwagata so much, so he wanted to make sure to do a good job portraying him. And going from a previous Sentai Red to being the first Sentai member to transform in a new season is just crazy. But anyways, I found it interesting that all the people that are granted Sentai rings all have the goal to be number 1 in some field. And in Susumi's case, he wants to be the #1 band in the world and deliver his music everywhere. So Taya is still delivering things in this world. And again, going from a show where the whole idea is to keep chasing your dreams, to the current season where the theme of the show is a battle royale, which also means destroying someone else's dream to get their Ranger ring, is absolutely crazy. Like, this is just a complete 180 to the message that Boon was trying to share. Which, by the way, yes, in order to collect the ring, you have to defeat the Universe Warrior. But with this in mind, I hope that there's an end goal with Suzumi where he gets discovered or something. As for the actual fight for King-Ohger, I noticed that Suzumi used a completely new attack that Gira never used, nor did the other King-Ohgers use. So I wonder if these guys will be able to use different abilities compared to their counterparts. Also, I wonder how these guys got their Tegaswords and their Sentai rings. Like, are they just giving out like candy, or are they hidden and you have to go and find it? I just need to know, since Toru was given his from the Tegasword god via contract. But from the production notes, we know that this isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, many more heroes will appear in the next episode. And apparently anyone can be a hero in this world. And with this in mind, I need them to bring back Kairi and Keishiro's actors and just flip their roles. And with this idea, they aren't only limited to bringing back Sentai Reds. They could honestly bring back any Sentai alumni. Or hell, bring back Decade to play Gokaiger. The possibilities for this gimmick are just insane and could give us our first female Sentai Red. But like I said, this is the most interesting thing to come out of the show so far, but I don't want to spend too much time on it since there's a lot more to go into. So with that said, let's head into the actual fights of the show. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this episode probably had some of the best fight scenes for an episode 1 in a while. Like, the entire mecha fight was just straight practical effects, which is just honestly insane. And honestly, this puts big budget Hollywood movies to shame in my opinion. And according to production notes, these were straight up real explosives being used. And having a wide angle actually allowed it to be very dynamic, alongside the natural lighting allowed for it to just look clean and very natural looking. But even within the first scene, their tokusatsu skills were on point, with them using all their tokusatsu skills from the past 50 years to create the perfect splash of juice from the Frankfurter. But going back to the fights, this Sentai, instead of going for an on-foot fight first, they went for a mecha fight. So I wonder if this is going to be how they go through these #1 battles against Brighton. Which, by the way, I love the hype people in the background during these #1 battles. It really adds to the whole scene. And I imagine as the series goes on, the amount of people will increase and outclass Brighton. But on the topic of the mechas, I wonder if, given that the Tegasword is compatible with the Robo Universe toy line, I wonder if they'll be able to use previous Sentai Robos in these #1 battles after they receive a Sentai ring. And honestly, it'd be a great way to cross-promote the toy line and allow #1 battles to not grow stale very quickly. But oddly, the team members don't actually use their suits in the mecha battles. Instead, they opt for the Tommy Oliver drip while manning the cockpit. Now, I don't know if this is a direct reference, but it definitely caught my eye. But most likely, this is related to the Tegasword cult that Tyranno is a part of. But as for the on-foot fights, they are just as good as the mecha fights. As I said before, GozyuWolf has a very brutal fighting style fitting for a wolf. But he also seems to have some sort of Smash Brothers Tekken combo, almost like he's playing in a video game. And he even has a glorious winning pose when he defeats an enemy. So with this in mind, this makes me wonder if the entire thing is just an IRL video game of sorts. Kind of like how Xade was, where it blocked off the game area and you were only limited to that area. But I feel like they're gonna go for more of a Geats feel since it is a battle royale. And even the superhero time intro reference to the fact that this is a game of sorts with a choose your character screen, while the outro is a Smash Brothers style winner screen. Overall, I'm very interested in how this will end up shaping up the more we head into the series. Given that we have Sentai vs Sentai, Gozyuger vs #1 monsters, Gozyuger vs Brighton, and the Robo battles. And it looks like we're gonna see our first Sentai battle and our first #1 battle in the next episode. But moving on, you know I had to talk about the evil team of this season being Brighton. And to say that these guys are interesting is an understatement. First off, there's a line that stood out to me a lot from Fire Candle. He comments that the world that they are from is created from the current world. So I definitely feel like there's some lore with that in some way, especially given that the place Horu found his ring is a graveyard full of mechas. So this could very well be the world that was created by the Tegasword in the original world to keep the mechas safe until they could be salvaged or something. Either way, I found it really interesting that Bouquet, compared to Fire Candle, seems to be very kind and gentle when asking Horu for the ring. And she even advises him not to use it since it could quote unquote kill him. Now, whether or not she was just saying that to get the ring back, I still think it's worth noting, especially given that her full name is the Bouquet of Compassion. But as for Fire Candle, from the transformation lesson, it seems like he's going to be our Act 1 villain and have a little rivalry with GozyuWolf. Though I do think that these two will have a similar role to the Noto trio. where they eventually will work with the team against a common enemy. However, I did really find this interesting that the villain's grunts are called Airi, which comes from the word "ai" in Japanese, which means love, along with the fact that their weapons are based off of tools that you use to ice a cake and to bake a cake. So this villain group is really going headfirst into the bridal gimmick, and I am all here for it. Anyways, I noticed that Bryden could turn any ring shape into a portal of sorts. We saw this when Fire Candle entered through a Ferris wheel, the grunts came out of a period on a poster, and then the others followed out the rings on his shirt. And this is a really unique way to bring about the villains, as it sets up guidelines for the team to go through. And given that there's a big giant ring on the Gozyuger's chest, they might make the Gozyugers into the portal. But with that said, there are a few things that I found extremely interesting that I couldn't fit into any of these categories. First off, it looks like the Tegasword can communicate with people of this world, similarly to the way that the Brydens can open a portal here, which is all through rings. This could also be how the team or even the universe heroes converse with the Tegasword. But on the topic of the Tegasword, it seems like the toys are separated into 4 categories: animals, sparkles, vehicles, and Donbrothers. I don't know why Donbrothers is the only one singled out, but I imagine that this will represent the other Japanese-inspired Sentai like NinNanger, KAKURanger, Hurricaneger, and many more. It's just Donbrothers is the only one out so far that makes this sound. So we are kind of just calling this the Donbrothers category as of now. Also, I found the OST for this season to be really good. The opening song is really catchy, as it should be since it's made by the Wieners. And the ending song is actually really good as well, though I don't think we're gonna have a dance ending like most other Sentais. Instead, I believe that they're gonna take the approach they did with Donbrothers, where the ending plays through the preview. Which, given how they have so much going on in the show, I believe that cutting the ending song might be worth it. But lastly, Toei's holding their own contest to create your own Red Ranger, which is honestly really cool. Like, imagine you're a kid and your concept for a Red Ranger gets turned into a reality. And then from there on out, it's burnt into Sentai history. I really love this idea, but it's insane to me that we're gonna likely have someone's fanfiction come to a reality. Anyways, Gozyuger seems like it's going to be an absolute trip, and I am all here for it. And if you are too, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and while you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button and leave a comment about your thoughts and predictions for the series. And with that, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. I'm Foul Place, and I'm out. Peace.